will grow old before it becomes rich. But on the other hand, this also offers many new opportunities for Danish life science companies who are interested in entering the Chinese market. New slide, please. So if we look at the healthcare spending of China in 2020, the number was 7.2 trillion RMB, or around $1 trillion, equal to 7.1% of GDP. And if we compare that to Denmark, the number was 10.6%, and United States almost 20%. But in terms of the number, it is expected that by 2030, the total healthcare spending in China will actually reach 17 trillion RMB, so more than a doubling of what we saw in 2020. But again, if we zoom in on healthcare spending per capita in purchasing power parity, then of course it's quite obvious that the gap between China and a country like Denmark is still very wide. So in China, the number was only around $775 and will compare to almost $6,000 in Denmark and $11,000 in the US. New slide, please. So as a result of this rapid change, the Chinese markets for both medical devices and medicine are today the world's second largest, and of course also represents one of the most important export growth markets for Danish life science products, solutions, and know-how. So if we look at the medical device market, then in 2020, China basically generated total revenue of around 800 billion RMB, or $120 billion, and the market has basically been growing by 20% annually since 2015. And if we look at the pharmaceutical market, then the total revenue generated in 2020 was the equivalent of $210 billion, and it grew in 2020 by 10%. So again, these numbers are of course quite substantial compared to Denmark. Next slide, please. So really to satisfy this rising demand for high quality healthcare services, China is actually investing huge sums in medical R&D, AI, modern hospitals, innovative medical devices, medicine, and treatment methods. And this is basically supported by a number of policies. I'll just mention some of the most important. So in October 2016, China issued the so-called Healthy China 2030 blueprint, which is basically an overall strategic plan to improve the national healthcare service and financial coverage in China. And then in April 2018, China issued the Internet Plus Healthcare Guideline, which basically is about promoting healthcare services using the internet and digital tools. Again, something similar you see in Denmark and the Nordic countries. And then in July 2019, the Chinese government also published a detailed guideline and action plan that was linked to the Healthy China 2030 plan, where they're basically focusing on a number of key areas in the promotion of healthcare in China. New slide, please. And then finally, it's also important to mention that in the latest 14th five-year plan covering 2021 to 2025 that was adopted in March 2021, there's actually a whole section that is related to the Chinese healthcare market that is titled Comprehensively Promote the Construction of a Healthy China. So there is actually here a link to the Healthy China 2030 plan as well. And it consists of what they call sections, but they're actually more like chapters. And here section 2 is actually quite interesting, because here they, for the first time, mention that we will accelerate the review and approval of drugs and medical devices for urgent clinical needs and rare diseases. And this is in many ways game changer that I will go into detail in a moment. New slide, please. And if you then compare that to how you need to register your a medical device or medicine in China today, first of all, you need to get an NMPA registration done. An NMPA stands for the National Medical Product Administration, and really depending on the specific product, its classification. In China, they have classes 1, 2, and 3. The product technical requirements, product type testing, and clinical trials. This can actually take anything from 16 to 32 months. But in order to get to this point, you first need to appoint an in-country representative, also referred to as a legal agent, and they will basically, on behalf of your company, manage the medical device or pharmaceutical product registration and renewal, and it will also supervise the product type testing. And then in addition, you will also have to appoint a clinical research that will take care of the clinical trial in China. But in many instances, the legal agents are also able to provide that service. And then, of course, finally, in order to get your product sold and distributed in China, you would also have to appoint an after-sales service provider, which is typically a distributor who will then take care of the maintenance and servicing of the medical device or medicine in the market. But I should also mention that if you have a legal entity, it is possible to actually become a so-called market authorization holder without having a production license, where you as a company can take care of the distribution and sales yourself. New slide, please. So that really leads to the Hainan area. So basically, it's important to understand that in June 2020, the Chinese government basically decided to transform the whole of Hainan Island into the Hainan Free Trade Port that would then become China's largest special economic zone that will be completed by 2035. And as with so many other special economic zones in China, of course, they will offer a number of financial and tax incentives. Then in January 2021, the latest catalog of encouraged industries in the Hainan Free Trade Port was issued, and here they also highlight a number of medical and healthcare related areas. And then in June 2021, the Hainan Free Trade Port law of the PRC was adopted and took effect. And with the creation of the Hainan Free Trade Port, 11 key industrial zones have now been formally established, including the Boao Lecheng International Medical Tourism Pilot Zone, also referred to as the Boao Hope City. New slide, please. But the idea of creating a medical zone in Hainan actually came about much earlier. So in September 2019, the implementation plan for the creation of the medical zone was actually released. And with this plan, the Hainan Boao Lecheng Medical Zone was granted a number of special preferential policies and incentives to create what they call a world international medical destination and cluster for advanced medical treatment, professional rehabilitation, medical R&D, and technology innovation in China. So it's actually quite ambitious. So it's much more than just approving products into the zone. And at the moment, there are actually 12 private hospitals and 5 medical service centers in operation. Some go back already to 2018, and another 5 new hospitals will open this year, and they have planned another 10 over the coming years. So this is, again, something that is rapidly developing as well. And by the end, when the park is fully developed, they expect that there will be 12,000 hospital beds, 300,000 patients annually, and it will employ 28,500 medical personnel. So again, the numbers are quite big. New slide, please. So what makes Hainan Boao Lecheng interesting? And here I would just highlight some of the most important preferential policies that you will not find anywhere else in China. The most important is that the zone offers so-called special fast-track approval procedures that will make it easier, quicker to both register, import, test, and sell medical devices, but also medicine for use in the zone that are not registered in China. But there are a number of criteria that needs to be met. The first one is that your product needs to be unapproved in China. So it cannot have been registered at any point before in mainland China, but you would need either a CE mark, an FDA license, or a Japanese PMDA approval in order to be eligible. Then second, your product must be considered innovative or better than approved predicates in China. So if there's already an existing product that are more or less similar to your product, then again, your product would not meet the requirements. And then, of course, most importantly, it needs to meet the clinical needs by the hospitals and their patients for this specified medical purpose. But in terms of the timeline, as I said, when it comes to a standard NMPA approval, that takes 16 to 32 months. But with this fast-track approval procedure, from the moment all the documents have been sent in, it can actually take only 10 days. So this is quite extraordinary compared to the standard procedure that you would have to go through otherwise.
We have a question here from Catherine Gau Jarabsen, who's asking if a medtech product approved in the Hvordan medical zone needs to be reapproved also by the NMPA in mainland China.
Well, in order to make it short, yes. The key here is to understand, and I will actually talk about it in a moment, but the key here is to understand that these special fast-track approval procedures are only currently for the hospitals in the zone. But, which is actually my next point, I'll explain why this is also a huge advantage when it comes to getting the NMPA registration for the whole of mainland China. Because the Boao Lecheng medical zone is actually the only place in China where they allow the collection of real-world data from the use of medical devices and medicines that have been imported under this fast-track approval procedure. And this data can then be used and supplement the application for the NMPA registration. And this can again accelerate the approval process for selling in all of mainland China. So in the zone, they have examples where products have basically been approved in reduced time of up to 12 months compared to the standard procedure of 16 to 32 months. So there is actually also some advantages if you want to target the whole mainland market by going through the Hainan Boao Lecheng medical zone. New slide, please. I should perhaps also mention that because the approval process is more or less taken care of directly by the hospitals in the zone, you then don't need to have any middleman like a legal agent or a distributor to be involved in the process. So you're actually going to sell directly to a hospital in the zone. And that actually leads me here to my final slide about the advantages, or some of the other advantages in the Hainan Boao Lecheng medical zone. I think it's important, which was perhaps also indicated by the question, that you should look at the Hainan zone more as a gateway or stepping stone into the rest of mainland China. But you can actually use the medical zone as a kind of a showcase or your reference when you start to sell into the Chinese market. And again, I've listed a few bullets that I just want to highlight. So one of the important things to mention is that patients in the zone, they can come from all of China. So it's not only in Hainan, it is basically for all of China. And then the follow-up treatment can be done outside of Hainan. Approved medical devices and medicine for that matter that have been approved, they can also be promoted all over mainland China. So already there, you have the opportunity to start promoting your product make the market aware that in the Hainan Boao Lecheng medical zone, your product is approved for use. Secondly, as I mentioned, you can basically sell and export your product directly to the end user, which is the hospital that are basically interested in your product. And the imported medical devices can then be stored duty-free in a bonded warehouse before approval. And then, which I will also say is quite important selling point, is that you can basically, through this fast-track approval procedure, gain some experience and know-how with sales and marketing, not only to the hospitals, but of course also the end users in China. Next slide, please. And this is just a picture from a meeting that we had with the vice director or the deputy director of Hainan Boao Lecheng administration back in October. And I can say from their part, they are very keen in attracting not only foreign investment, but also Scandinavian, Nordic, and Danish medical device products. They're fully aware of the strengths of the Danish healthcare system, and they also see, you say, a number of opportunities that will be made available to Danish companies. Yep, that was my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Noam, for giving us insights into these unique possibilities that the Hainan Boao Lecheng zone is offering Danish companies. I think before we go on to the next presentation, does any of our participants have any questions that they would like to have clarified at this point? If not, then I think we go on to the next presentation, which is by Peter Ølby, also from the Nordic Life Science platform APS, who is going to give us some more details and insights into step-by-step market access platform that is being offered by this partnership. And Peter, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. The floor is mine, yes. First of all, welcome to this seminar. My name is Peter Ølby. I am one of the co-founders of the Nordic Life Science platform. I have a background with China going back to my first visit in '96. I had the opportunity to work and live actually on Hainan Island for 1.5 years. And after that, I have been working with China primarily as an advisor and moving Scandinavian companies from Scandinavia to China. The background for the Nordic Life Science platform. Oh, sorry, if you could change the slide, please. Thank you very much. Yeah. So what is actually a Nordic Life Science platform? Yeah. Basically, we have put together a lot of skilled people with many years in China and a lot of expertise in advising and working with small and medium-sized companies when it comes to getting into the Chinese market. We have decided to make a step-by-step platform which should make it more safe and easy for the companies in order to get started. We have a very clear overview of the time, the cost, the procedures, which will give you, you can say, a relatively safe background for doing decisions when it comes to working with the Nordic Life Science platform. So you can basically say that we are a one-stop service platform. We are here in Denmark, represented by me and Marco. We have boots on the ground in China to assist you both locally in Hainan, but also when you have considerations moving from Hainan to mainland markets. Yes, please change. So what is it actually that we are delivering? I will say that you have now heard a lot of very interesting market facts and predictions and numbers, and it can be a quite you can say overwhelming, and for some also maybe too big. China is a huge market, yes, for sure, but China is also a very challenging market, and China is definitely not for everyone. You need resources, you need money, you need patience, and you need the ability to move fast, but also wait. So what we have done here, and we have of course done it in the partnership, but we have also done it according to, you can say, our talks and discussions with the local zone and the administration down there. We have built up a step-by-step flowchart, which basically will take you from the first meeting here in Denmark until, you can say, you are established and selling directly to the hospitals in Boao. And also, if you are interested in going from Boao to mainland China. So we have combined a lot of different services that I will say in general introduce you to now, so you can see how it works. It is important to say that if you are entering, you can say, our step-by-step market entry, you can always say thank you very much after each phase. It could also be that we find out that the hospitals in Hainan do not have a need for your product, but anyway, you are still interested in China, then of course we can skip the Boao Hainan zone and try to go directly to mainland China and offer you different services up there. I think it's important to say also that today we have Martin from the Innovation Center Denmark with us, and Noam. Both of them are sitting in Shanghai normally, so they will be our boots on the ground in Shanghai. And when it comes to Hainan and the commercial issues down there, it will be handled by Noam and a Chinese colleague of us, and I will do the job here in Denmark. So you can say the first thing that we would like to look into is, of course, a clarification. As Noam said, entering Boao Lecheng zone is interested if you are a Danish medtech, health tech, or rehabilitation company. Right now, we are focusing very much on companies who have either a CE mark or an FDA approval, because that is a requirements or basic requirements for getting into a fast track entry model. So if you go to the next slide, please. Yeah. So basically what we can say, the first thing we do is that we arrange bilateral meetings here in Denmark where we are presenting more in details what is the zone, what can it offer. We are explaining you how it works, who will work with what. We are also trying to present you different kind of cost perspective in working together with us, and basically try to ask all the nasty questions, but also try to make you understand what it actually takes to start up. As Noam also mentioned, you should look at this opportunity as a stepstone into the greater Shanghai market. It is a very interesting place to test your solutions. It's quite easy. You have a very good overview of the cost all the way, and you have people with a lot of experience working together with you all the way. And you will gain a lot of experience in working with Chinese hospitals. I think it's also interesting to say that if and when your products are in Hainan zone, you are able to market your solutions on mainland China, which will give you the opportunity to start to more deeply investigate who could be your potential partners in mainland China. You can invite hospitals down there. You can invite key opinion leaders, professors, and things like that, in order to build up a much more knowledge about entering the Chinese markets. So after we have, let's say, had the first meeting here, we will also present you with a contract proposal, how you can work with us. And based on that, you should be able to say, yes, we would like to go for the next phase, or no thanks, we would like to wait. I think one thing which is quite important, and that we address that already here, and which is a question that we meet every time we talk about China, but also every time we meet a Danish company, is how do we go around with the IPR? We have internal IP lawyer who will assist you with questions and clarifications and advice and guidance when it comes to these questions here. So this is definitely something that we approach in the beginning here. So we make sure that we are not taking you to China, you are not doing anything without we have a very clear picture of your IP situations when it comes to entering the Chinese market. Next slide, please. So after we have done the, you can say, the clarification, and you would like to continue, you can see the next thing would actually see, do we have a potential client for your solution in Boao? And as Norm also said, here we are not trying to do a huge market research. We know exactly who are the clients, and that are the private hospitals or the hospitals or the research centers down there. So for us in the inquiry phase, it's about taking your product, your solution, and introduce it to the different selected hospitals down there. And we do that in a combination of being present by ourselves and also with the network that we have built up locally. That means that your product, let's keep it there, will be presented to different hospitals, which we know could be interesting in using such kinds of equipment. The hospital will look into it together with us. And we will have a report about the findings, which would either be, yes, we are interested in continuing the talk with the potential company, or it could also be, no thanks, we already have similar solutions or devices that we are using here, so we are not interested in continuing. And then basically you can say, your and our task of getting you into Boao is over. This takes between 2 to 4 weeks, and you can see the cost and what is it included and what is not included. Next step, please, or next slide. So if the hospital in Boao say, yes, we are interested in learning more, then we are going into what we are calling a more detailed and especially also more technical and commercial discussion, which we call a matchmaking. That means that we are going much more into details about your solution. We need to, you can say, make a more detailed pitch for the hospitals. We need to know much more about your company, and we need to know more about solutions and advantages and where it's used and why it's used and so on. And based on that, we are initiating the talks with the hospitals in Boao and are going much more into, you can say, more details, and hopefully it will end up in a situation where the hospital will say, yes, we would like to start using this solution, which means that you will basically have a client who are ready to buy based on a commercial contract directly with you and use your equipment in the specific hospitals. You will also participate in these meetings now that China has opened for visits in January 8th. You of course are invited also to be present in Hainan, but basically you should reach this conclusion by only participating in online meetings, while we will be your people on ground and doing the face-to-face negotiations and talks with the hospitals and the local zones.
Peter,
very different.
Peter, just a second. We have a question here from Jørgen Hansen about how many companies have you helped, and if it's possible, get a list of references to learn about their experiences. And I think, Jørgen, before answering the question here, Peter, that through this is a newly established platform. But Peter and Noam and the team in China has, of course, many years of experience in general. Peter, any comments?
Yeah, first of all, as we said, Nordic Life Science platform actually are having the first kick-off webinar today, presenting the different phases. But it's essential to know that both Noam, but also people at the Innovation Center have more than 50 years combined experience working with small, medium-sized companies in China. We have been advising and setting up more than 60 companies in China, and that means everything from just meetings all the way to company registration, to take part of the daily operation, HR, financials. We have worked with investors. So I think we have tried, I think China is so big you cannot say everything, but we have tried quite a lot. And the background for establishing this is actually taking all this experience and put it down in this platform and take our learnings and try to make something that is easy, or as easy as it can be in a Chinese context, for a Danish company with ambitions to get into the Chinese market. There have been several other companies, but not from the Danish side, that have been through this fast-track procedure together with the zone. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's around maybe 100 and 150 companies has been through this fast-track procedure in the zone. So it has been tested, and we know it's working.
I can perhaps add, Peter, that in terms of references, some of the clients that we have dealt with, apart from the Nordic Life Science platform, is actually also a few Danish medtech companies. So we are not completely unfamiliar with what it takes to help a Danish medtech company to enter the Chinese market.
Good. So I think you can continue to the next slide, please. Yeah. So basically what happens now is that we have presented your solution. We have a hospital that have agreed to use and buy your product. And then what will happen now is basically you will enter into this fast track entry. And that is a lot of predefined procedures that you will go through. There's a lot of document that needs to be handed in, has to be processed. There will be, you can say, a few things back and forth. But the good thing is that it is actually, the process is driven by the hospital. So they are the one in charge and taking lead of this fast track procedure. And you will, as a Danish company, you will be assisted by us. We will make sure that we have a constant flow of information and nothing is left behind. We will also assist you in drafting and securing the right, you can say, commercial contract, as you are entering into a commercial contract in China that is sometimes or could be different from a European or Danish contract. And then we will also work with the different authorities to make sure that you have a fast-track entry that will not take more than the specified time, which is 10 to 14 days from documents are handed in. And cost on this service is relative, as it could be that you would like to do a lot of this work by yourself. It has also something to do with how much experience do you have, how much documentation do you already have. Do you have it in Chinese, or would you like to do it in Chinese by yourself? So when we are coming to this, it's more on an hourly base. So it will be an offer from our side to assist you in this phase here. So if you go to the next slide, please. Yeah. Then you can say now you are in a Boao zone. You are dealing with the Chinese hospitals. You are, of course, doing what you normally do. And that means having a product sold. That probably also needs training, needs service and assistance. So you will, of course, have to do that. But now you are saying you are in the market. Then comes, of course, the possibility for you to go into the mainland market. And as Noam said earlier, it's very important to stress that even though you are now able to operate in the Hainan Boao zone, does not mean that you have an MAPA or NAMP approval, but you need to start that as well. But now we can assist you in a more mainland market access. And here is where we are working closely together with the Innovation Center and Martin's team, because they have different medtech and health advisors spread over China. So they can be more locally assisting us in doing a market research. There are different partner search opportunities, but again, that is under the Nordic Life Science platform that we will define the right job, and we will assist you together with our local partners, which could be or it is the Innovation Center, or could also be you can say the Trade Council, of course. If you go to the next slide, we have quite a lot of experience in working with sales and marketing in China, which can be very different from what you are used to. So if you are interested, we have different services that we can assist you with. Basically, you can say you have different kind of sales channels in China. It is different than what you are used to. There's a lot of social media, strategies that need to be thought about. There's also what you have here, KOLs, key opinion leaders. That could be professors, that could be hospitals that you have already been working with through your network you have built up while you have been operating in Hainan. And then, of course, there's all this business set up, and should we go into a joint venture? Should we establish our own private company and all this? These are services that we can discuss with you and advise you in along the way. Next step, please. Next slide. Yeah. Then when you are in China, there's of course a lot of things that will come to daily operations. We can do that, and we are doing that together with the Innovation Center always. Also, especially you can see we have something called IPR filings. That is a matter that we are very focused on, and as I said in the beginning, we have addressed that from the start. But now you are more into operations here, so that is different contract reviews and assistance. It could be HR, it could be financial services. It could also be that you are looking into local funding opportunities with a Chinese VC or Chinese partner. So there could be a lot of different activities. And We have been through all this before and have done that for a lot of Danish companies before. So we have quite a good background experience on how to do this. But of course, again, it is up to you. If you want to use somebody else, feel free. If you want to use us, we will of course be happy. But we are not, or you are not obliged to be with us through all the phases. Phase one and phase two, which is inquiry and you can say the matchmaking. Yes, that is our task. But after that, the rest is you can say is a possibility to choose whatever we can deliver, some part or the whole part or nothing. Next slide, please. So this is the team, and as I said in the beginning, Norm and Daisy are our Nordic Life Science platform team in Shanghai. Then you have Martin also in Shanghai. I will be boots on the ground here in Denmark, and together with my colleague Henrik, we will take the meetings here in Denmark, and we will make sure that you are fully informed of the processes, cost, and also how we are able to assist you from you can say from starting up in Denmark until you are well settled in Hainan, and hopefully all. Yes, I think that's all from my side here. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Peter, for giving us an introduction here to the step-by-step model and the value proposition for companies that wish to engage in this. We have a question from Jørgen Hansen, whether it's possible for you to elaborate a bit on what type of documents or what type of data is required from the hospital in the zone in order to engage in the fast-track approval process. Can you elaborate a bit on that?
Maybe I can answer that.
Yes.
I think, as we mentioned, one of the criteria is, of course, that you have at least a CE mark or FDA approval. So, of course, you will need to present documentation that you actually have these approvals before we can move on. Then, of course, there needs to be a lot of documents that are basically also taken from maybe your CE mark application. Because ultimately the local hospitals and the zone want to make sure that your approval is based on a scientific basis. But in terms of documents, again, it's a little bit more detailed, and of course something we also will go through when we go through the step-by-step model with the clients. But in terms of documentation, it's much less than if you would have to go through the NMPA registration. That is for sure.
Thank you, Norm. Is there any other questions? I think it's important here to mention, of course, that this introduction is at this point very general. There are a lot of details I think is worthwhile getting to know on a more bilateral basis. If you as a company reach out to any of us, we will be happy to clarify a lot of the things and how a model like this can actually help your specific company. As mentioned in our presentation, we have focused a lot on medtech, on health tech, on rehabilitation, but not mentioned a lot about pharma. Pharma is, of course, also included by this unique possibility in the Hainan Boao Lecheng zone. So don't hold back. Please feel free to reach out to us, and we will, of course, also be looking into how specifically we can assist your company. Peter?
Yeah, I think it's also important to say that this partnership here that has been introduced today is we are actually working on formalizing a partnership together with the zone, which means that besides having companies within medtech and health tech, there's a lot of opportunities for the Danish, you can say, very broad life science sector. We are looking into an area here, building a lot of new hospitals. Some of them are the same size as our super hospitals here in Denmark. So based on all the super hospitals that we have built here in Denmark, I suppose that we have gathered some kind of knowledge and experience in how to do that. Designs-wise, how do you operate in hospitals? How do you design it? So there could be a lot of different opportunities for the Danish life science sector outside of, you can say, not just a medical device used by one of the hospitals here. But we are working on that, and we will present that on an earlier stage.
Yes, and just adding to that, maybe I think it's worth the while to mention that China, of course, as many other countries, are looking into how to make a transition of their healthcare system. And we, of course, wish to use this platform also to bring in Danish know-how, Danish technologies, new innovative treatments, and use it really as a platform on how to inspire our Chinese counterparts on constructing a healthcare system, hospitals of the future. Do we have any other questions from our companies participating? Feel free to let us know. If not, maybe we can use these final 5 minutes here to maybe give the floor to you, Martin, from the Innovation Center in Shanghai, just to let us know as well that the partner we have from the Danish government side, that you have, of course, many years of experience in China. You sit there and is kind of on the forefront of the developments locally in such an important country as China.
Thank you very much, Marco. I hope that you can hear me. And thank you all also for presenting Noam and Peter. We are very much looking forward to this partnership and to assisting all the companies in China. And as Peter and Noam mentioned as well, we have a long history of helping life science and medtech companies in China. So it's not only me, it's also the ICDK team, the rest of them, and also my colleagues at the TC Trade Council in Beijing. And with me today is also Yubo, our local life science expert. So we have a lot of assistance for you that we can sort of plug into this project. So we're very much looking forward to see all the companies. So please reach out to us. I shared my email in the chat room as well. So yeah, thank you and looking forward.
Thank you very much, Martin. I think, again, please, any questions, just let us know. Otherwise, I think it's important to mention here that we will be sharing all of the presentations with the participants here. We encourage you to reach out to us, even if you have the smallest doubts or areas that you wish to have clarified or explore in further depth. Please don't hesitate. We are here for you guys. We are here to add value to your companies and the journey that you are considering entering. We will share also in the follow-up email our contact information for you to reach out directly to any of us. Do we have any additional comments from Noam? Peter, you have anything you wish to add here, ending?
No, I'll just say that it's good that you are sharing the contract. How it works basically is that you send us an email, and depending on where you are located and so on, I will maybe together with Marco pay a visit, and we will go through in more details how it works and how we are incorporating the knowledge which is that we are having together with our partners, and it will take you like an hour to hear. And so, but I will say something. I mean, both Noam and I have been dealing with China and Scandinavian companies for 20 years, and I would say this opportunity here is very unique. And it is in a way, I will say, if you have some kind of ideas about going to China, this is definitely, I would say, the place to be, because you have a security in time. We know how long time it will take you from being meeting with us the first time until you are basically in the market in Hainan. Here we are not talking about locating agents or distributors who are going to spend a lot of time finding clients. We are very commercial oriented in this project here. We want you to gain access to the market as fast as possible and gain experience here, which you can later use when you are moving towards the Chinese market, or the mainland market, as you can call it. So I hope that you find it interesting, and I hope to meet some of you on a one-on-one meeting where we can get into more details. Thank you from my side.
Thank you, Peter. Then I think it's time to close down this webinar session. I want to thank everybody for participating, for spending this initial start of the week here with us, learning more about the opportunities that Hainan Boao Lecheng Medical Zone offers, and how the step-by-step model by this partnership can add value to your business. We will send out a follow-up email shortly after this, and without further ado, have a nice week, everyone. Hope that you've enjoyed and learned something during this hour. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice day.